What's up, guys? This is Josh back here from Inside Wrestling Truth. It's Friday night. Tomorrow, Steelers and the Ravens lock up on prime time. Wild card, first round. It's the first time in NFL history that two teams with multiple Super Bowls have played in the first round of the playoffs on prime time. Pretty cool deal. First off, the last Steeler video I made, I was kind of hard on the Bengal fans, and I want to kind of apologize. It's just emotions after the game. You guys are really not that bad, but I think there's one thing that Steeler fans, Bengal fans, and Brown fans can all agree on, is these idiots from Baltimore. They have to have the goofiest, dumbest fans in the division. I mean, they have whined and cried and moaned all week long. They don't like our grass. They are mad because we're playing a primetime game. Their fans have been on Facebook all week talking shit about the Steelers and the Bengals. Cincinnati swept them, and they're still talking shit about the Bengals. They're talking shit about us, about our grass, and how they don't want to play a night game, and how this won't even be a game because Le'Veon Bell's hurt. It's going to be a good game. It's the Steelers and the Ravens. It's going to be nasty, but it's going to be a good game. And just because Le'Veon Bell's hurt, yes, don't get me wrong, he's a huge part of this offense. But I still think Pittsburgh has the tools on offense and on defense. I think everybody's talking about our offense, but I think our defense has got a lot better. I know Ike and Troy are playing this week. I'd rather, they're kind of past, their time is past. Not trying to be mean. They both put in a lot of work, a lot of battles for us, made a lot of plays for us over the years, but I think their time is past. But it's going to be a good game. I would be surprised if it's a blowout on either side of the ball. The Ravens are a pretty cocky team for some. They must have a short memory in Baltimore. Because I remember a couple weeks ago they lost to a 4-string QB when they played at Houston. They got lucky making the playoffs. The only reason they made the playoffs is because San Diego lost. They put up 20 points against a Cleveland team with a 3rd-string quarterback. All that's, I don't know where Planet Baltimore Raven fans are on, but none of that is going to matter tomorrow night. Because you're playing, Le'Veon Bell might be out, but you're playing Ben Roethlisberger, and I'm sorry, Ben Roethlisberger gets overlooked all the time. They never talk about him, and all he does is win. The Baltimore Raven fans are still talking about Ben Roethlisberger is a rapist. Would you please come up with some new material? He never got, he was never convicted to be a rapist. There's never enough evidence. What about y'all's linebacker, Ray Lewis, that committed murder, and they still can't find the suit? He should have never played another game in the NFL. What about your running back that likes to smack his old lady around? Y'all play dirty. Everybody in the division knows this. And tomorrow night, I cannot wait. Because I sure in God hope Pittsburgh mops the floor with y'all. I really do. Y'all have no class. Y'all never have. Like I said, I want to apologize to the Cincinnati fans because I was a little hard on you guys last week. But Baltimore Ravens are definitely have the dumbest fan base in the AFC North, hands down, hands down. But it's going to be tomorrow night, 8:15. It's going to be in Heinz Field. It's going to be rocking. It's going to be rocking. And for a team like Pittsburgh that's pretty much, rebuilt their whole defense except for a couple guys, I'm really proud of what the Steelers have done this year. They were at 3-3, and they finished the season 8-2. I'm proud of my boys. This tomorrow may be the last Steelers video I make of the year. You never know, or we could keep going. But I feel pretty confident in my Steelers that they'll win tomorrow. There's just nothing in Baltimore really that scares me other than the crabs that they bring along. But yeah, I just want to talk about that for a little bit. And then I wanted to go in. I made a list. I did this a couple weeks ago. I wanted to do it, and I figured I had time tonight, and I would go ahead and do it. This was very hard to do. Okay, guys. These are my top 25 all-time Steelers. This was very hard to do. I'm sure many Steeler fans will debate with me, and I can understand that. This is just my opinion. My thoughts on the top 25 Steelers of all time. This list was very hard to do. Notable mentions for the top 25 list: I have Rocky Bleier, Mike Wagner, Donnie Shell, Levon Kirkland, James Ferrier, Casey Hampton, and Antonio Brown. Top 25 Steelers of all time. Let's start off with 25. Louis Lips. Everybody knows the Steelers were down in the 80s. They really struggled in the 80s, but this guy, Louis Lips, was one of the bright young players that come through Pittsburgh. Really made an impact in receiving. Special teams was really a highlight reel. I put him in at 25. He played 7 years in Pittsburgh from 84 to 91. He was a 2-time Pro Bowl selection. And he was an 84 Offensive Rookie of the Year. He never won a Super Bowl and never played in a Super Bowl. But I thought out of all of the players after the great 70 Steeler teams in the 80s, who was one guy that I really wanted to put on this list, and Louis Lips was that guy, and I put him in at 25. At 24, I have Kevin Greene. Kevin Greene is low on this list because he didn't play in Pittsburgh that many years. He only spent 3 years there, 93, 94, 95. He went to 1 Pro Bowl. He played in Super Bowl 30 where we lost to Dallas. Thoughts on Kevin Greene. When he came to Pittsburgh, I thought he fit in real good. I remember as a young teenager, Kevin Greene was a bad man, dude. He had black and gold and long blonde hair, and he was in a great linebacking core with Greg Lloyd, and they just wrecked the league, man. They were hard. The best defense in the league when he played for us. He was a great player, and he keeps getting nominated for the Hall of Fame, but he doesn't make the final cut. And he already said that if he played for the Rams and the 49ers and the Panthers also, and he already said that if he ever goes into the Hall of Fame, he's going in as a Steeler, which I think is cool. I put him in at 24 on this list. Coming in at 23 is Heath Miller, our tight end currently. Heath Miller is hands down the greatest tight end we've ever had. He just comes and plays ball, man. He don't talk shit. He just comes and plays. A lot of people thought his career was over when Reggie Nelson tore his ACL. Heath Miller's ACL up, but Heath came back and he's proved he's a great player. He's definitely our best tight end of all time. Stats on him: he's a 2-time Pro Bowl selection in 2009 and 2012. He's been in Pittsburgh for 10 years. He's third all time in receptions in Pittsburgh. The only guys in front of him on the Steelers reception list are John Stallworth and Hines Ward, so that's pretty elite company. You can see why I say he is the greatest tight end we've ever had. And he's won 2 Super Bowls. He's played in 3. Like I said, he just comes to play ball, and his numbers don't lie. You go look it up. He's a great player. 22, I have Ernie Holmes. Ernie Holmes didn't play. He played in Pitt not that long. Let's see, 7 years. He won 2 Super Bowls in Pittsburgh. He was part of the original Steel Curtain. Just a badass football player in an era when you had to be tough. Demons really got to this guy, and that's why he, ended up leaving Pittsburgh. Later on in his life, he actually was in a WrestleMania, which I thought was cool. But at 22, I have Ernie Holmes. And then at 21, I have another guy from the original Steel Curtain, Dwight White, Mad Dog, Dwight White. He played 9 years for the Steelers. He was in 2 Pro Bowls in 72 and 73. He won 4 Super Bowls with us. This guy was just a machine. He scored the first points in Steelers Super Bowl history with the safety against Minnesota. Just an unbelievable player. And I have him in at 21. I know some of you guys would have some of these players higher, but this is just my just my thoughts. At number 20, I have Terry Bradshaw. I know a lot of people have him higher. In my opinion, I thought Terry Bradshaw, don't get me wrong, I thought he was a good quarterback. I didn't think he was a great quarterback. I thought he fit into the system really well that he was in. Let's go through Terry Bradshaw, a little bit of history on Terry Bradshaw. He played for the Bird 13 years, won 4 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, 13 and 14. I believe that's what it was. Yeah. 3 Pro Bowls, 75, 78, and 79. He was a 1978 NFL MVP. He went to the NFL Hall of Fame in 89. He led the NFL in touchdown passes in 78 and 82. And he is the second all-time leading passer in Steelers history behind Ben Roethlisberger. When I compare Bradshaw and Ben Roethlisberger, I always thought, if Ben Roethlisberger would have been on that 70s team, they would have probably won 6 or 7 Super Bowls. But that's why I had Bradshaw so low on this list, but he's still a great quarterback. He's still a great part of Steelers history. 19, I have Dermontti Dawson. Dermontti Dawson played in the late 80s and through the 90s. He actually took over for the great Mike Webster. He spent 12 years in Pittsburgh. He's a 7-time Pro Bowler. He played in Super Bowl 30 where we lost to Dallas. He got inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2012. And out of the 12 years he played, he only missed 3 games. He played 181 out of 84 games. Without guys like Dermontti Dawson, there would have been no Jerome Bettis. They would have never had the running game that they had. Dermontti Dawson, definitely underrated. Glad to see him play in the Hall of Fame. And just go, if you're a young Steelers fan, you don't know nothing about Dermontti Dawson, go check him out, man. He was a beast. He was a center, and he was a beast. Number 18, we got Joey Porter. Joey Porter was a great leader. He's a defensive assistant currently for the Steelers, but this guy, he left it all out on the field. People were scared to play him. He talked a lot of trash, but he always backed it up. One of my favorite players in Steelers history. At 18, I have Joey Porter, who played 7 years there. He was a 4-time Pro Bowler. He won Super Bowl 40 with the Steelers. He was the first player in NFL history with 70 sacks and 10 interceptions. Joey Porter was just great. I hated seeing him go when he left Pittsburgh, but things like that happen. But definitely on this list, at 18, I have Joey Porter. 17, I have Troy Polamalu. I know a lot of people probably would have him higher, or lower. It just depends if you're a Troy Polamalu fan, I guess. But I felt he fit in right at 17. This is his 11th year in Pittsburgh. He has 8 Pro Bowls. He's won 2 Super Bowls with us. He won Super Bowl 40 and 43 with us. He was 2010 Defensive Player of the Year when we went to the Super Bowl and lost to Green Bay. Age and injuries have caught up with Troy Polamalu, but early in his career, when you played the Pittsburgh Steelers and, you had to always worry about where Troy Polamalu was. He was a great player. I'd like to see maybe him having a good game tomorrow night against the Ravens. Troy Polamalu, definitely one of the greatest Steelers of all time. I put him at 17. At 16, I have Greg Lloyd, who played in the late 80s and through the 90s. He played 9 years in Pittsburgh. He was in Super Bowl 30 where we lost. He'd been to 5 Pro Bowls. Just an intimidating linebacker for the Steelers. I was watching a video on him, the other day, and I missed that. I mean, he was intense as fuck. Physical, could rush the passer. I remember being a young kid, like 7, 8 years old, watching the Steelers, and my favorite players were Greg Lloyd and Rod Woodson. I don't think Greg Lloyd gets enough credit for what he did in Pittsburgh. I don't think he gets enough love, and that's why I put him up at 16. He's one of the greatest linebackers to ever put on a Steeler uniform, and that's saying something, knowing all the Steeler players that have came through, or all the great linebackers that have come through Pittsburgh. At 15, I had Big Ben Roethlisberger. Hands down, you can make an argument because Bradshaw's won more championships, but in my opinion, hands down, the greatest Steeler quarterback we've ever had. He's been in Pittsburgh 10 years. He's got 3 Pro Bowls. He's an Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2004. He is the Steelers' all-time leader in wins, pass touchdowns, completions, and passing yards. That's saying something. And his career's not over yet. He's the youngest quarterback to win a Super Bowl. He's won 2 Super Bowls with us. Fell short in the third one. Each year Ben gets older. I hear all the fans talking about replacing him. I think he's fine. I think he had his best year yet this year. And you keep putting a good O-line and giving him weapons, I think he can play another 3-4 years. Just my opinion. And at 14, I have John Stallworth. This guy was just an amazing receiver. He really got overshadowed. He was always in Lynn Swann's shadow, kind of, but he was still a great receiver. He played 13 years in Pittsburgh, 3 Pro Bowls, 4 Super Bowl wins. He got inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2002. He's second all-time leader in receiving behind Hines Ward. He had that amazing catch in January of 1980 against the Rams to lock up Pittsburgh's 4th Super Bowl title. Just an amazing receiver. I know he's in the Hall of Fame. I know he's second all time on the Steelers list in receiving, but I just think he's one of the most underrated wide receivers in NFL history. All right. Number 13. I have L.C. Greenwood, a guy that always gets snubbed out the Hall of Fame. Should have been in the Hall of Fame years ago. Probably the most underrated player on the Steel Curtain. He played 11 years for Pittsburgh, 6 Pro Bowls, 4 Super Bowl titles. He's second all time in sacks with the Steelers. Just an amazing player. He's known for wearing the yellow shoes because they would always get him messed up with Joe Green. Just an amazing pass rusher, an amazing player. And I hope one day the NFL will see and put this guy in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He made several plays during the 70s. Just a great, great player. Number 12, we have James Harrison, one of my favorite Steelers of all time. Debo. 11 years, 5 Pro Bowls, 2 Super Bowl titles, 2008 Defensive Player of the Year. He has the longest interception in Super Bowl history. And he's third all time on the Steelers sack list. This guy is probably my favorite Steeler of my era. This guy is just physical. He's nasty. He's getting up there in age. It don't matter. I mean, he's still sacking quarterbacks, making plays. He had some of the nastiest hits I've ever seen on players, mainly Cleveland Browns. Just an amazing player. You know, when they let go of Porter, I was kind of nervous at that spot. They put James Harrison right there, and he just took over instantly. Great player, man. That's why I have him so high up on this list. James Harrison, just a great player. I put him at 12. Number 11, Rod Woodson. Like I said, when I watched the Steelers, it was guys like Rod Woodson and Greg Lloyd. As a young child, made me like the Steelers. Rod Woodson, I mean, in the 90s, everybody had a Woodson jersey. Everybody liked Rod fucking Woodson, okay? He was a man, made plays, got injured. Pittsburgh didn't think he would be the same again. He wasn't there much longer, but he still continued to be great. Rod Woodson, he played 10 years in Pittsburgh, 7 Pro Bowls, 93 Defensive Player of the Year. He played in Super Bowl 30 with the Steelers when they lost to Dallas. He was on the 75th NFL All-Time Team, 2009 Pro Football Hall of Fame, and he has the third most interceptions in NFL history, and he has the most interceptions in Steelers history. Truly a great player. And I was glad to see him go in the Hall of Fame as a Steeler. I mean, there were games in the 90s where our offense wasn't clicking, and Rod Woodson's would just have like a pick six or a fumble recovery or a kick return and just single-handedly beat teams. But Rod Woodson in at number 11. Number 10, I have Mike Webster. Excuse me. Yeah. We have Mike Webster. Mike Webster was truly a great player. He was the first great center we had. It was really sad to see him, how he lost his life and how he became homeless. It's really a sad story. If you don't know about it, go look it up. Mike Webster played 14 years in Pittsburgh. He went to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1997. 9 Pro Bowls, 4 Super Bowl titles. He was on the 75th NFL team. He was just a great player. I put him up in the top 10 because I thought he was deserving of it. You know, offensive linemen don't get a lot of credit most of the time, and I just felt that he was fit to be in my top 10, and that's why I put him in my top 10. Number 9, Jack Ham. You know, everybody in the 70s always talks about Lambert, but Jack Ham was a beast, man. He had skills. He could ball. He was great, man. You know, let's just run down some of his shit here. 11 years in Pittsburgh, 8 Pro Bowls, 4 Super Bowls. 1998, he went to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He has the most forced turnovers, 53 by a linebacker in NFL history. What else can I say? Just a great player. And they don't make them like him anymore, man. Number 8, Number 8 is a guy that I had to go back. I had to look up some old school footage. I had to study his number 8 is Ernie Stautner. I don't know anything, I didn't know anything about him, but after I learned him, I was like, damn, he really is a true great Steeler, because like he was playing at a high level for the Steelers when they were horrible. I mean, he played from 1950 to 1963. He played 13 years in Pittsburgh, 9 Pro Bowls. He was the 1957 Pro Bowl MVP. And he's only one of 2 players in Steelers history to have their number retired. Ernie Stautner really was the first Mr. Pittsburgh Steeler. I know some of you young fans are like, why the fuck's he on your list? Go look him up. Go look at his resume, and you'll be impressed. Number 7, Lynn Swann. Lynn Swann was truly one of the greatest wide receivers to ever play this game. The greatest catch I ever seen in NFL history was the one he made in the middle of the field and on the sidelines against Dallas. This was before my time, but when I seen it, I was truly impressed, and they were great catches, and this guy showed up. He didn't even catch a pass in the first Super Bowl, but after that, he just was clutch. Let's talk about Lynn Swann. He only played 8 years, but he played 8 years. He won 4 Super Bowls. He was in 3 Pro Bowls. He was the Super Bowl 10 MVP against Dallas. He went to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2001. Lynn Swann was great. I still love watching his highlight reels, his catches. There was a lot of times Bradshaw would underthrow him or throw him too far, and he would just make unbelievable catches, man. Lynn Swann was a great wide receiver, truly great. Number 6, probably one of my top 3 Steelers of all time is Jack Lambert. When I think of Jack Lambert, I just think of a psychopath, no nonsense, get in your face. I love what he did to Cliff Harris in the Super Bowl when he slammed him. No nonsense, all heart, balls to the wall. True Steeler, man. He played behind that great steel curtain. He was huge. He didn't look like a linebacker. But let's go through his stats here. 10 years, 9 Pro Bowls, 4 Super Bowls, 74 Defensive Rookie of the Year, 76 Defensive Player of the Year, and he went in Canton in 1990. No wonder this team won 4 Super Bowls in 6 years. I mean, you look at the steel curtain, the front 4, you look at Lambert and Ham, and man, they were loaded. I wish I would have been alive to see that. Jack Lambert, number 6. Number 5, we have Hines Ward, baby. One of my favorite Steelers of all time in my era. Hines Ward, as of right now, to this date, the greatest wide receiver to ever play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I remember as a teenager watching him play quarterback at Georgia, and we drafted him, and we had like Cordell Hines, Randall L., all the same thing, and we turned him to a wide receiver. He had heart. I've never seen a wide receiver block and hit as hard as him. He made some of the best catches I ever seen. He was clutch. You could always depend on Hines Ward, and he'll always be up there in my book and one of the greatest Steelers of all time. He played 13 years in Pittsburgh, 2 Super Bowls, Super Bowl 40 MVP. He is a Steelers all-time leader in receiving touchdowns, receptions, and receiving yards. I'm pretty sure Antonio Brown will break that one day, but as of right now, Hines Ward, number 5 on my list. And something else about Hines Ward, the passion this guy had, like crying, mad because Jerome Bettis didn't get a title, and then the next year they came back and won it, and he made sure that him and Roethlisberger. That was awesome, man. Hines Ward, number 5. Number 4, Franco Harris. You know, everybody thinks about Franco Harris. They think of the Immaculate Reception. But this guy was awesome. Truly great. 11 years he played for the Steelers, 9 Pro Bowls, 4 Super Bowl titles, Super Bowl 9 MVP against the Vikings, 72 Offensive Rookie of the Year. He went into the Hall of Fame in 1990, and he's second all-time in rushing for the Steelers, only behind Jerome Bettis. I loved his runs in the Super Bowl against Dallas when Dallas pissed him off and he ripped like a 20-yard touchdown run. You know, Franco's Italian Army. Franco Harris, man, number 4 all-time Steeler on my list. Number 3 all-time Steeler on my list, Jerome Bettis. Is a guy that should have been in the Hall of Fame a couple years ago. Hopefully this year he gets in. We'll find out real soon in a couple weeks. Definitely deserving. We brought Jerome Bettis into Pittsburgh. It's kind of funny. I remember we had Bam Morris before him, and Bam Morris had a whole lot of drug problems, okay? And we didn't know what to do. Jerome Bettis was a free agent. He signed a 1-year deal, had an awesome year, and he was almost a free agent again, and the Steelers locked him up, and he had a Hall of Fame career right after that, man. 10 years in Pittsburgh, 6 Pro Bowls, 1 Super Bowl. He's a Steelers all-time leader in rushing, and he's 6th all-time in an NFL in rushing. I remember when, early in Bettis' career, we would play teams. I remember a game against Jacksonville and a game against Arizona where it was tied, and we just handed the ball off to Bettis, and he'd rip like a 30-yard run, and it would end the ball game. Truly a great player. Hopefully he goes into the Pro Football Hall of Fame this year because he deserves it. And, yeah, Jerome Bettis, number 3. Number 2 on my list is my favorite Steeler of all time. Truly my favorite Steeler of all time. And it's Mel Blount. If you go back and you watch Mel Blount footage, this guy was a beast at corner. They don't make him like Richard Sherman ain't shit compared to this guy. Mel Blount was a beast, dude. They changed the rules of the game because he was too fucking good for them. He would pick off everything they fucking throw his way. That's why they call it the Mel Blount rule. He's my favorite Steeler of all time. I know other people like Green and Lambert and, whatever. But Mel Blount, truly my favorite Steeler of all time. Let's go through Mel Blount one time. 13 years, 5 Pro Bowls, 4 Super Bowl titles, 75 Defensive Player of the Year, 76 Pro Bowl MVP. He went to the Hall of Fame in 1989, and he is 2nd all-time in interceptions, only to Rob Woodson. But this guy, they do not, and I will repeat this, do not make corners like him anymore. True definition of a shutdown corner. Just go ask Deion Sanders. He's a huge fan of this guy as well. Mel Blount, number 2 all-time on my list. Yeah, Mel Blount. Now, my number 1 player in Steelers history is probably number 1 on most people's list, and that is Mean Joe Green. Mean Joe Green was the number 1 pick in 1969 for the Steelers. He was the start of the great dynasty of the Steel Curtain. He was that big centerpiece that they built everybody else around. He was truly great. There's a reason why they have 2 Steeler numbers in Pittsburgh retired, Ernie Stautner and Joe Green, and that's for a reason. Joe Green was truly that great. I had to put him number 1 because he was the centerpiece, the start, and the heartbeat of that great dynasty in the 1970s. Joe Green played 12 years for Pittsburgh. He went to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1987. 11 Pro Bowls, 4 Super Bowl titles, 1969 Defensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, I could go on and on and on about this guy. I mean, but his resume, his legacy speaks for itself in the city of Pittsburgh and with all the Steeler fans. When you see a yellow and black jersey with 75 on it, you know who the fuck it is, Joe Green. But that's my top 25 Steelers of all time. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back tomorrow night to talk Steelers and Ravens, whether we win or lose. But let's just hope we go out and get a W, and we'll be going to Denver. If not, we'll be getting ready for the draft. But this is Josh here, and I'll talk to you next time. Go Steelers, man.